Thanks for joining us this midday. I'm Matt Howardson. Tonight, friends and family will come together to honor a security guard who was shot and killed outside of a club in Fort Worth. Investigators say Dominique Coleman got into a confrontation with someone before shots were fired at Club New Start Sunday morning. Coleman died. A woman was also shot, but she is expected to survive.
It's unbelievable, you know. I'm still kind of lost for words for like the whole situation.
Police say 21-year-old Dedrian Freeman is charged with murder. His dad and brother were also taken into custody. This morning, the city of Fort Worth launched a campaign against illegal gunfire in an effort to better community safety. Natalie Haddad is live with us in Fort Worth right now with the latest from the city on that effort. Natalie.
Hey, like you've mentioned today, the city of Fort Worth and its police department launched a citywide education campaign, not just on illegal gunfire and the dangers of that, but also on how to properly, safely store our guns. Now, today started with a couple of statistics from Mayor Maddie Parker. She mentioned that in Fort Worth, arrests related to illegal gunfire have increased between 2024 and 2025. Arrests for the same reason have increased statewide by about 115%. We went on to hear from Police Chief Eddie Garcia. He noted how firing a weapon into the air is dangerous because a bullet must land somewhere even if shot into the air. It was also shared that more and more young adults and children are finding handguns and hurting themselves with it or worse.
There is no such thing as an appropriate way to fire a gun aimlessly into the air. That bullet goes somewhere, and over 1/3 of those gunfire fatalities happen unnecessarily, and they're happening right here in the city of Fort Worth.
Responsible gun ownership does not end when you purchase your firearm. If you own a gun, you have a responsibility to secure it.
Members of Fort Worth's own city council and their families have been affected by illegal gunfire. We're going to hear more about that later tonight in our later newscast here on WFAA. I'll send it back to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Natalie. Now a violent scene near Harvard University. A gunman opening fire into traffic. 2 people were injured before a state trooper and a bystander took down the shooter. Here's ABC's Hannah Battah.
Terrifying moments outside Boston. A man with an assault-style rifle opening fire on this busy highway around lunchtime, randomly pointing at traffic near Harvard University. People running for their lives, others hiding in their vehicles.
I tried to crawl underneath the seats, and then I saw that it was getting closer and closer, and I could see him coming, so I crawled out of the van.
2 men in their cars were hit, suffering life-threatening injuries. Police saying the gunman fired up to 60 shots, at one point seen smashing this car window.
I opened my car door to peek out to see what was going on, and the shooter was right there. He was aimed right at me.
Was it like rapid fire, like a...
Rapid. Like pow, 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 pow.
A state trooper and a Marine veteran were nearby and jumped into action, shooting the suspect.
Went towards the suspect with their weapons to try to end that situation. Both the civilian and the trooper fired their weapons, and that suspect was struck multiple times in the extremities.
Without their quick and selfless acts, today's situation would have been a lot worse.
Authorities say the suspect, 46-year-old Tyler Brown, was on probation. Our Boston station, WCVB, reports he has an extensive criminal record, pleading guilty to a previous shootout with Boston police in 2020. Police say this latest shootout has left many people traumatized.
Those individuals on the river, walking, pushing baby carriages, riding by. We know that weapon had the capacity to have struck people on the other side of that river.
Hannah Battah, ABC News, New York.
All right, taking a live look over Dallas. Your time right now is 11:04 a.m. 73 degrees outside and an absolutely beautiful shot of downtown Dallas. Mario Ruiz is a check on your forecast.
Yes, it is looking absolutely stunning. It's actually feeling great outside too. Very comfortable for us, right at about 75 degrees right now. Winds are out of the southeast. That's a little different from the last couple of days. That's why today will be slightly warmer than the last few days. It's because we have the return of a southerly wind. But winds are light. We're going to see the sunshine, and that temperature climb is not all too harsh for this time of the year. In fact, a lot of mid-70s right now as we approach midday. 75 degrees in Denton, 72 in McKinney, about 76 in Fort Worth, 73 in Decatur. The temperature today is going to climb into the low 80s. We make it to 82 degrees right right around 2 in the afternoon. 83 degrees is where we're going to top out, and that happens between 3, 4, and 5 in the afternoon. Winds stay light all day. That's why it's going to stay comfortable for us. We'll eventually drop down to about 80 degrees by 8, 74 degrees around 10, 70 degrees around midnight. But get this, we're going to see a temperature climb every day the rest of the week until we make it into the low 90s. There's a couple of reasons for that. We'll talk about that. A couple of chances for rain, not just this weekend, but especially early next week. Details on that coming up in just a little bit, Matt.
All right, thank you so much, Marielle. New numbers on the economy released today showing a sharp increase in inflation, the worst in 3 years because of the war in Iran. Meanwhile, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is back on Capitol Hill, but so far not speaking on the future of the war and what the next steps might be. Here's ABC's Olivia Rubin.
Today, new data showing the economy taking a hit from the war in Iran. Inflation sharply increasing to 3.8%, the highest level in nearly 3 years, according to data from the Labor Department. The Strait of Hormuz, where about 1/5 of global oil supply passes through, has been shut down during the war, sending energy prices surging. Now up nearly 18% year over year. Gas up nearly a staggering 30%, according to the data. Now, the typical American household is spending $266 more a month on the same goods and services from a year ago, according to Mark Zandi, chief economist at Moody's Analytics. And after more than a month of negotiations, President Trump still has no deal in place to reopen the strait or end the war. Negotiations essentially at a standstill.
I would say the ceasefire is on massive life support.
And up on Capitol Hill today, lawmakers pressing Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth for answers as the Trump administration seeks $1.5 trillion in defense funding.
The question must be answered at the end of this crisis. What have we accomplished and at what cost?
But Hegseth rebuffing, not saying any specifics about next steps.
We have a plan to escalate if necessary. We have a plan to retrograde if necessary. We have a plan to shift assets.
And now the acting Pentagon comptroller telling lawmakers today the estimated cost of the Iran war now $29 billion. That's up from the $25 billion he testified to just 2 weeks ago, saying that update comes after accounting for equipment replacement and other general operational costs. Olivia Rubin, ABC News, Washington.
Okay, so back to that inflation report. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics dropped its consumer price index for April this morning. American consumers paid 0.6% more over the month of April. According to the Bureau, the consumer price index is now up 3.8% over the past year. Energy prices saw the steepest increase, but labor data shows Americans also paid more for food, airfares, and apparel too. Prices for new cars and medical care, though, went down in April. A CNN poll shows most Americans are feeling pessimistic about their financial futures. Only about a third of respondents say they could comfortably afford an emergency expense of $1,000. Nearly 70% of those surveyed believed a recession is likely in the next year. 2/3 said their paychecks aren't keeping up with expenses, and half believe their financial situation will get worse. The U.S. Department of Energy will release more than 53 million barrels of oil from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. It's part of the U.S.'s pledge to add 172 million barrels to the international market. More than 30 countries are included in an initiative to bring roughly 400 million barrels of oil to the world. The shortage circles back to the war with Iran, shutting down the Strait of Hormuz, which carries about 1/5 of the world's natural gas and oil supply. This morning, the average price for gas in Texas, it's slightly down to $4.01 a gallon. The national average is $4.50, and more relief could be on the way as President Donald Trump says he's willing to suspend the federal gas tax. Economic analysts say that gas prices could soon break the record set back in 2022. The Strait of Hormuz has effectively remained closed for 10 weeks. Experts say diesel could break its 2022 record high as soon as this week. And even in the face of higher prices, AAA is projecting a record-breaking year for the unofficial start of summer on Memorial Weekend. Fort Worth-based American Airlines expects to smash travel records set before the COVID pandemic. Here's Janelle Ford.
Despite rising fuel prices and the war in Iran, American Airlines says that it is gearing up for its busiest summer ever. Now, I know it may not look like it today, but that's because the first big test is next week when Memorial Day kicks off the summer travel season. American says that from May 21st through May 26th, it expects to fly more than 4.2 million customers and more than 40,000 flights. That launches what the Fort Worth-based airline says could be a record summer. 75 million customers across 750,000 flights between now and Labor Day. A lot of that will run through here at DFW Airport, which is America's largest hub. But those record numbers come with record pressure. Airfare is already up about 20% from last year, and jet fuel prices have more than doubled since the war in Iran began to more than $200 a barrel. We're seeing higher fares, higher fees, and in some cases, people rethinking big trips. Industry analysts say some international bookings are dipping, especially to Europe, with travelers opting for trips closer to home. And then you add in the Spirit shutdown, which means that there are fewer ultra low-cost seats and less pressure for other airlines to keep airfare down. So if you are planning that summer vacation, these are all things that you'll want to pay attention to. I'll send it back to you in the studio.
All right, some robo-taxis in Dallas are under federal investigation after several crashes. The National Highway Traffic and Safety Administration is investigating crashes involving AV Ride, that's Uber's rideshare partner. The robo-taxis have been on the road in Dallas since December, but video shows some driverless cars changing lanes into the path of other cars and failing to stop or slow down. In a statement, AV Ride says in most cases the cars were traveling at low speeds and that other vehicles were at fault.